Spoken Label.
He lurked in the shadows, waiting and hoping she wouldn't take a different route. This was her usual room. He knew that. He knew her.
Ghost of Me, the new book by Amanda Steele, can be found at Amazon, Kobo, Waterstones, and many, many other places. Hi guys, it's Andy N. Thanks today for downloading or streaming yet another episode of Spoken Label. As you may or may not be aware, Spoken Label was started in the beginning of 2006, and currently we have well over 150 sessions recorded since then. Although you can find it on various networks, the full archive is available for streaming and downloading at Spoken Label bandcamp.com. It is a free download or free stream in there, but obviously if you feel like chucking me a few pennies that way, it'd be eternally grateful to help me keep this podcast going and keep improving my equipment, etc. Enjoy. Speak to you soon. Bye bye. Spoken Label.
Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, back in the house on a Wednesday early morning. I've got a writer from London with me today, but she's not originally from London. And I'll let you'll guess at the accent in a minute. Jo Harker Shaw. And I met Jo originally at Mel Woodend Wardle's night over when I headlined for her the other month. And I was really impressed with her when she went on the I forgot the word for it now. Oh, not the Zoom. The competition at the end of it. I thought she should have won it. So I thought she's very, very good. So, Jo, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell everybody, obviously, who you are, where you come from, and what starts off all your writing. We'll start from there.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you very, very much, Andy. So yeah, I'm Jo. I'm a poet, and I'm originally from Scotland, which I'm glad you said you can tell from the accent, because the accent wanders all over the place.
Yeah, I bet it does, because you told me you've been in England for 15 years now, haven't you? So
yeah, about 15 years in London, and you know, my mum's kind of Irish English as well, but I grew up in Scotland, and I've worked with a lot of Americans and lived with Americans, and it goes all over the place.
Yeah, you've got, because I know I've worked with a few people that are Scottish, and I know two Scottish writers. Your accents are a lot softer, certainly, and some have you found that when you talk to some Scottish people? Yeah. Oh yeah. But in Edinburgh, yeah, I can imagine what happens.
I mean, actually, I sort of find it really zooms off when I get in with somebody particularly from someone from exactly where I'm from. It just sort of turns up massively, and I absolutely don't mean to do it, but I suddenly catch myself going, "Oh, I'm talking slightly differently."
I think it's natural sometimes, because I'm Mancunian by birth, and I've always lived in Manchester. I've travelled around a lot, and I've had it before now, where I've met people, like you said. I've got part of family in London. When I've gone down to see them, and I've met some of their friends, and I found one that was Mancunian. By the time I finished with them, they were like me again. So
I always find it interesting the way people sort of change depending on who they're talking to, and you know, there's a kind of empathy there. I think that we tend to slightly match how we talk with the people that we talk to. We sort of become a little bit more formal or a little bit more casual, and I think it's making connections.
Yeah. I think it is. I think it does. It seems to come natural to you, like it's a trigger in the human brain, doesn't it? So it's very interesting. So, but obviously, about yourself, I know you came to London 15 years ago, didn't you? Or so.
Something about that. I came down to come to university, and I sort of grew up, as I say, in Scotland, very much in the middle of nowhere, which was incredibly beautiful. But when you're sort of 19 or 20, as I was, it was, I need to get out, I need to get to the city, I need to see things. And I got really lucky, actually, because I came down. I came down to university. I thought, well, university is a good way to get out. And at the time, I didn't quite know what I was doing with my life, as one tends not to when one's 20.
Oh yeah, I think you do. You get to that stage, like you're just reacting, aren't you? So I'm going to say, do you need to get into your 20s sometimes to get a better focus sometimes? So what did you study at university then when you went to uni?
Well, I wanted to do film, because I absolutely love films and love cinematography. And I came down and I thought, I'll do film, and I'll do film with English. So I thought, English is nice. I like reading books and stuff. That'll be fun. And I sort of snuck in, because I didn't have any A levels. I dropped out of school when I was 15, and I'd done little bits of courses here and there. And so they let me in clearing, kind of going, oh, well, we'll give you a go. And I was really lucky in that I went to St Mary's University where I now work, and there were some amazing people there. And it was the English department that I sort of absolutely fell in love with and just went, oh, I was so welcomed there, and I loved it. And I quickly dropped the film stuff because no, I want to read more books. I want to find out more of these stories. I want to hear this whole world. I sort of really got enchanted by it.
Yeah. Were you writing poetry and before you went to university when you were very young then, were you originally?
Yes. Yeah. Poetry and stories and all sorts of things. I think being only child growing up in the middle of nowhere, I spent a lot of time making up stories, and half of them I would write down.
Brilliant. Did you have any sort of favourite
typewriter? It was little.
Oh God, I used to have one of them. I've run them when I was about 8 or 9. I was dreadful with it. The amount of Tipex I used to do, just like Tipex every night, I couldn't get it right. Oh, yeah. Still got some of the manuscripts, and then I had a PCW. If you remember one of them, an Amstrad PCW.
I never got to a computer. it was not till I came down to London actually. Like I can print stuff out and all kinds of things. But
you can save it as well. Yeah, much more.
I know, it's magic.
Oh God, completely. Now, obviously, when you were growing up, then, did you have any sort of favourite writers that inspired you to want to write? Or
that's an interesting one, because I'm actually an incredibly slow reader. I'm sort of a bit dyslexic, I think. I've never properly been tested, but I can kind of, when I've subsequently read about that, I've been, oh, that's what it was. So it was very slow writing. But I was very lucky that I grew up in a house that was full of books. And, I think I was given some sort of nice poetry anthologies for kids that got all the pretty ones. And I remember sort of Robert Frost, reading people like that as a child.
I love Robert Frost, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening was my sort of bedtime poem favorite. Oh, please, can we have that one? Can we have that one going? I love Christina Rossetti as well.
Yeah. I love Goblin's Market. I don't know if you've been following that. I have a regular series going up every week on Sunday Tribune, where people actually tell me their favourite writers and how it influenced them. And I loved it when somebody recently did Christine Rossetti's Goblin Market. Oh, and I hadn't read it in years. That piece, a fantastic piece.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. And I had a copy of David Copperfield, which is what I would read at bedtime. And when
light reading.
It was, but the thing was, people sort of get quite impressed when I say that, but I read about a page a month. I was so slow at it. But I just loved it, and I kept just going back to the beginning. I just loved this little world and these little characters. And I'd probably seen one of the versions on telly or something, so all the characters were in my head and I knew the story. But I had these few little things. There was something slightly magical about these stories to me that I would just come back to them, sort of almost a talismanic power that you can slip right into this world, and it's just there waiting for you, and it's so reassuring.
I think good poetry is like that in a way, because I think that's Dickens very good at that. He's very good at me. He's been a novelist with the heart of a poet, if that makes sense. I think so. I think for what I've seen, your influences, we'll come on to that more in a minute. But I can see where you've gone for you go for the classical literature stuff. Like it's the novelists with poems in them, really, and we're going to come on to that now, aren't we? Because I know at the moment you're doing a PhD still at the moment, aren't you? And that started off originally, and obviously shows you a love of Gothic literature of Mary and Percy Shelley. Now,
yes.
2 questions on this for, because I know your PhD's changed focus now. First of all, where did your love of Gothic literature come from?
So I think very much my degree, I sort of discovered it all. Mary and Percy were really big for me. The Shelley, I'm on first name terms with them now. We're buddies. I came across Percy Shelley when I was a teenager. I was living in Dublin for a while, and I was absolutely dropped out of school. Didn't have any focus in my life. Didn't know what I was doing. Hadn't yet thought of university. And I remember picking up a Dover thrift Percy Shelley for like €2 and reading it. Oh, this is amazing. And that was kind of there in the background for a long time. I love these poems, they're amazing. And then I went to university and we did Frankenstein in my first year. And my head was blown. It was fantastic. And then we'd been reading it for a while. And then I suddenly went, hang on, wait, she's married to this guy. Wait, so all these poems I love and this book that I love, they're being written in the same house at the same time. Why is no one talking about this?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I was so fascinated to know how that happened. And that the idea of the two of them, and I was instantly just really captured with the idea of the two of them sitting there sort of side by side, looking over each other's shoulders. What was that relationship like? And I remember, I went to various kind of talks and things, sort of wanting to find out more about them. And I remember talking to a really brilliant, scholar in general, Richard Holmes, gave a talk, who's written a famous biography of Percy Shelley and all kinds of other things. And I remember going to a talk of him and saying, look, I'm interested in knowing about Percy Shelley and Mary Shelley together. What was their relationship? Is there a good book you could recommend? And he said to me, there's not really been a good book written about them yet. Maybe you should do it. And it was this amazing moment. It was such a throwaway thing. He didn't really know me at all. I was just an enthusiastic undergraduate standing there going, "Oh, tell me the story. But it snuck into my head. And so it's sort of, I think Mary Shelley sort of led me through a lot of the Gothic, but I mean, Percy Shelley's poetry is so Gothic as well. There's so many sort of grim, dark stories of dark nights and lovers lost and all of that.
Yeah, you can see it, can't you? Like it's, even though she lived many years beyond him, she died fairly young. And I've read enough of the work to know there is a massive similarity, and they clearly, whether she copied him or he copied him, they bounced off each other. I think sometimes, don't you, when you see writers that live together, sometimes you can see that sort of that connection. And get those two are a really good example of that to me, definitely.
Yeah, and like absolutely what you're saying there, that kind of, did he copy her? Did she copy him? That, I think that's what the discussion has been for so long. Whenever I was looking it up, it was sort of people saying, Percy Shelley was this genius and his wife just wrote this silly little novel, or it's, Mary Shelley was a fantastic feminist and she was really brought down by this patriarchal husband. And I just neither of these things.
No, I don't think it is. No, I think there's a middle ground somewhere in that. There is definitely so.
Yeah.
I've just gone and ordered, and I've not read it yet, I must admit, is the science fiction novel she did, The Last Man.
Oh, yes.
I've not read that yet, so what?
You're in for a treat.
I see. Recommendation then. I take it, are you familiar with much of her other work then, apart from Frankenstein?
Yes. Yeah, I am. As I say, I've ended up teaching at St. Mary's and teaching particularly sort of Gothic and 18th century stuff, Romanticism, all that good stuff. I'm actually going to be teaching The Last Man to the undergrads in a couple of weeks, and I'm so thrilled. But it's an incredibly for those of you who've not heard of it before, which is probably most people.
It's not one of the most people don't know.
No, everyone knows Frankenstein.
Yeah, definitely Frankenstein.
Everyone knows Frankenstein and beyond that.
Yeah, and she wrote, 4 or 5 of her books, didn't she? So?
Yes, yeah, she did. And I've got a couple of favourites. There's a couple but a couple. But I think The Last Man particularly is so it's obviously written in the 19th century, but it's about a plague in the 21st century. So reading it right now is slightly unnerving in this time of pandemic.
That's why I wanted to get it, because I read about it a couple of years ago, and I thought, we're in a pandemic. I thought, why not read?
Yeah,
the book predates it almost completely.
But it's a lot about kind of different models of governance, and about kind of she's a really political writer as well, which I think is often overlooked about, and she sort of has different models of different forms of leadership. I mean, she's very pessimistic. I think this is the thing that people always come back to with Mary Shelley, is that she's not her like Percy Shelley has an element of utopianism in him. Like he's desperately trying to find that beautiful, perfect future that we can all work towards, and it doesn't always come for him. And sometimes you can see the conflict in his writing where he's falling over himself, but he's so determined. No, come on, one of my favorite Percy Shelley poems is The Mask of Anarchy, which has this
brilliant stuff. Love Mask of Anarchy, because I first heard about Mask of Anarchy when I got involved with Three Bits of Beast about Peterloo in Manchester, and that's come up and it's been mentioned at many occasions now. It's obviously same timeline, and that love poem is a fantastic piece. It really is.
It's been used so many times politically, which I find fantastic. I think Gandhi quoted it, and it's been quoted in Tiananmen Square. It's part of the Labour slogan. I can't remember if it's still the Labour slogan at the moment, but for the many, not the few, is a contraction of
It probably is in one way or another, basically, to answer yourself.
But that famous line of Percy Shelley, he is trying to rally people and say we could do this, rise like lions after slumber and unvanquishable number, shake the chains to earth like dew, which in sleep have fallen on you. For we are many, they are few.
Yeah.
And just this sort of like, come on, we can do this.
Always remember that line, because I studied at A level, and incredible point, absolutely incredible. Now, obviously, moving forward a bit more in time now, but obviously, like I said before, you started off as this is your PhD, didn't it? But obviously, now, and you told me off the mic before, your PhD is about to finish it, and that's now something different, isn't it? You went a different direction.
So I began this as in English literature as kind of as a scholar, and going, oh right, I shall scroll through the manuscripts and I shall do this academic referenced text of how this happened, and she wrote this and we know that this happened, and then we can see that the ink changes and then his handwriting takes over and all this stuff. And I was sort of going through it, and I was really pleased with what I'd found, but I was also kind of going, I'm a bit bored of this. I don't really want to read it myself. And I thought, how would I want to read this information? I thought, well, I want to read novels. I love reading novels that are grounded in truth. I love reading novels that are in some way educational, and that sounds horrendous. Educational, but I think all novels are educational. We learn things about the world when we read. That's why we read. So I thought, well, maybe I could write this story as a novel. And it was ridiculous because it was halfway through my PhD. I'd done about two years or something, and it was a friend of my fellow PhD student, and she was just saying, you're doing the wrong thing. You're a novelist and you should be writing a novel. and I just sort of sat there, and it was just this sort of, the truth had hit me, and I was going, yes, I am a novelist more than I am an academic. I love doing research and I love teaching, but I don't quite have the academic mindset. What I do have is a storyteller mindset, and I love that. So I sort of very sheepishly went into the university, and I spoke to a chap there called Peter Howell, who's been an absolute kind of legend to me throughout, and just went, what if I wanted to change my PhD?
Oh, wow.
And bless him, he was the hero who went, we can make that happen. And so it all kind of shifted. I moved into creative writing. I got a new creative writing supervisor, Ross Schechter, who's been an absolute legend all the way through this. And it's taken slightly longer than planned, but it means that now I'm here with this novel. So I've finished the writing. I've written an 80,000 word novel, 20,000 word critical reflection. And in 2 weeks, I will be having my viva.
Oh, God.
See if I can pass it. So, it's been an absolutely incredible journey, actually, to get to this, and one where I'm actually really happy at the end of it. I'm really proud of the work that I've done, the choices that I've made, and that I've got this novel sitting there ready to go out into the world.
No, I can't blame you. It's like I said, obviously, if people are wondering about the novel, obviously you're carrying on your theme, and aren't you, about the Shelleys? That's just people are clarifying that. So,
it's about their lives. It's just giving voice, painting that picture, and saying, so then Percy's sitting here, Percy's sitting at this desk, he's writing this, he leans over, Mary, what do I do about this? She's just dramatizing that, seeing it come to life.
Yeah, it's an incredible aspect what you've done, like I said, to go and write effectively an 80,000 word novel on that, and on face it, a well-known topic like that, and do 2 years. That's some go, but it's not fiction, it's non-fiction. That's the research you must have put into that must have been absolutely phenomenal.
It's been 5 years of my life, yeah.
Wow. Wow. No, brilliant. No, I can't blame you. Good luck with it, definitely. Now, I know obviously if people are wondering, you have bought out a collection already, haven't you, some years ago, which you did with your, was it your mother and your then partner, now husband? Just get that right.
Absolutely.
So I think about that then. Songs of the River, please, and next year.
Yeah, Songs of the River was a little thing. Yeah, it was 2013. I put together a little collection of poetry, and I've always written poetry. And I think actually when I came to London, I started performing poetry, and that was a big step for me to actually. That was a big sort of breakthrough of a way of sharing poetry, because it always sort of seemed difficult publishing poetry. That's always been a vast and confusing thing to me, and so many people want to read the classics, and of course, why shouldn't they? But adding a new voice is very difficult. And then I thought, I just went and performed, because I'd done bits of performing before, and I loved that, and that went really well. And I sort of thought, well, I'd like to bring a little book along to say to people, oh, here we go. So I put together this little book, and it was, once I started putting together the book, I thought, well, I'll get some friends involved. So I got my mum involved. She put in some of her poems, and my partner, absolutely, he put in some of his, and it's a little illustrated thing. And we just sort of put it together, and it's no particular theme. I've done a couple of books since then that I've had a focus. I've had a real kind of narrow view of, okay, this is about this. But Songs of the River was just a little collection of pretty pieces that came to mind, I think.
No, I get you completely of it. I can see some others dangling around as well on Amazon if people are interested. Like there's one that's a Ukrainian edition of Witches of Ira Falls. I can see you.
There's a Ukrainian edition. Well, Witches of Ira Falls is some kids' poetry, because I teach creative writing, and I go and do workshops, and that again, it was the workshops came first, and then I thought, well, actually I want to have something here, and so it's part poetry workbook so that kids can learn different ways of doing poems, and part just silly poems about witches, because who doesn't love witches? The Gothic themes running through.
Of course, yeah. There's loads here. There's no point in going for those. A number of it I can see. So I think your most recent one that I can see was Creative Voices of Uganda. Does that sound about right to you?
Yes, absolutely. That's very new.
Tell us about that one then, because obviously we need to talk about your more recent work, don't we?
So, the thing, there are probably two books I would really like to mention. One is the Creative Voices of Uganda, but I think the other one I will come back to in a second is The Darkness and the Dawn, which is more of my own writing. Creative Voices of Uganda it's not really my poetry, is the first thing. So hang on, where do I start with this story? It starts in lockdown. First lockdown back in March last year, 2020, and all of my teaching went online. I'm doing lots of teaching, and I thought, oh well, okay, fair enough. And then that was a sort of moment of, oh well, actually, now that I realise that I can teach online, I can teach in other places. I can teach further away than just down the road. And I ended up getting in touch with a guy who I think I've been big sort of Facebook friends with for a while, called Jude, and he runs a community centre in Uganda, and he was saying, look, all of our schools are closed. And I was like, oh well, if the schools are closed, you've got an internet connection. Do you want me to teach the kids some English? And I'll just kind of give them something to keep working on for now. And it turned into this ongoing course, sort of series of 8-week courses where we do get kids, sort of mostly teenagers. And it was sort of this absolutely fantastic thing that we're just doing on Saturday mornings, where there's me, and then I'm on the Zoom screen, and all these kids are crowded around this one screen in Uganda, so far away, writing poems. So mostly in that book, it's the poems of the kids themselves. And I put together the book to raise money for the community out there, because they've got one computer between the lot of them, and I think conditions are pretty rough out there, particularly in the pandemic. And all of the art was donated by artists, and lots of artists that I know took on commissions and drew portraits of the kids. And there's some gorgeous artwork in there. And yeah, it was lovely reading poetry from kids, and seeing the difference, because I see kids, I teach lots of kids over here in local libraries and so on, and they would come up with the same sort of stuff, and then seeing, yes, it's the same sort of stuff all so far across the world.
Wow.
But then those little differences too, and there's one in there who particularly writes some kind of political poetry, and he's absolutely incredible. So yeah, I strongly recommend that book to anyone in the most selfless way. Just go and read it, because the poetry is astonishing from these talented young people.
Okay, now the other book we're going to talk about is The Darkness of the Dawn. Now, yes. I'm giving people a little tip here now, and I don't want to embarrass you, Jo, when I say this.
Yeah.
The book's actually quite a good price on Amazon at the moment, actually.
I can give people an even better tip, which is that for anyone who's interested, the ebook is free.
Oh, is it?
It absolutely is. This is a book about mental health, about depression specifically, and I've had various bits of mental health over the years, and how many years ago? A bunch of years ago. I'm actually having a look here to see when on earth did I actually write this? It was anyway a bunch of years ago. I had an absolute massive crash. It was really, really bad. It was, and I got out of it. And then I wanted to be able to tell people about it. And I think the biggest thing that I thought was that in that time when I was so depressed and I was so frightened and so confused and just feeling my world crumbling around me, I didn't have any way of communicating that to people. And I thought, oh, well, maybe if I could put it into a book, I would at least be able to hand it to my friends and just go, this, by the way, this is what I felt. And maybe there might be one person at some point who would be in that place and would find this book and be able to point to this book and say, this is the thing. And it was really difficult to do. And it was really, really painful to do.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at that sort of project, because you wouldn't know, so I'm diabetic, so, and I'm halfway through my book about when I got diabetes, and that's took me probably about 8 years to write, and it's still not coming together now. And it's just, I think sometimes you're doing that sort of project are so close to you, I think it's the most difficult thing to write sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also the most rewarding thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, this I've read this a lot. So it's a series of sort of individual poems, but there's a longer version of them all kind of cut together that I perform sometimes. And that, without exception, is the poem that people will get in touch with me about and say, oh, that is where people have said, like, thank you for that. And that is the most incredible sort of thing. I once performed it, and then a long time later, somebody bought the book at the little, it was I think it was in Word Search in Sutton, which is a lovely little night that I often go to. Sarah Hobbs runs, and chap bought the book there, and he just said, oh, it was lovely, thank you. And then he emailed me about 6 months later or something like that, and he said, really appreciate you writing this book, because this is the first time I've understood what my wife is going through. And
oh, wow.
And he said you'd given it to her, and she'd given it back to him, saying, can you now read this, and this is what it is. And I mean, I absolutely sat and cried for a few hours.
Oh, no way, yeah, completely. It's something like it just breaks your heart when you hear stuff like that completely. But wonderful story. Now, obviously, I know obviously you said before you have been doing readings over time. How, just last put one thing before we get on to, I'll let you plug yourself for your links in a minute.
Yeah.
But obviously, how have you found them doing readings in person to Zoom? It's such a different beast, isn't it, over the past year or so?
Yeah. It took me quite a while to get into doing them, actually, because I love performing, and I love getting up on the stage and actually talking to people. There's something very isolating about being a poet, just sitting, being a poem. I like that.
Oh yeah, completely.
But you just sit by yourself and you just write it, and then I share a lot of my stuff online. As I say, traditional publishing is too exhausting for me.
Yes, for a lot of people nowadays.
I want someone to read it. Somebody will like it. I go, oh great, that's nice. But I love the actual reading, and then transferring that onto Zoom. It's strange, but I've come to really enjoy it. And it's a different thing. And once I've kind of got my head around it being different, I've really gotten into it, actually. Yeah. And I like sort of setting up my background and doing, I'm going to sort of put nice things in place. I'm going to put a little plant here. I'm going to put some lighting here. And I think this is kind of the cinematography stuff that I was into back when I was a teenager. I started going, oh yeah, I can. All I have to do is one shot. I get really into that.
No, completely. Yeah, it is very different, and it's not for everybody, because I know people. I'm sure you do with podiatrists. I've done it once, twice on lockdown, hated it, and never gone back to it again.
Yeah. Absolutely. But there's also something I think quite nice. I mean, I work with a lot a lot of young poets, a lot of, and I suppose I mean the word young in terms of young in their career, people just are starting out.
Young compared to me and you, basically, yeah.
Yes. And a lot of them are really nervous about getting up on the stage. And I said, well, actually, I think some of them are enjoying doing it from their bedroom this isn't quite the stage yet. But I'm putting my work out there. So I'd sort of recommend it for anyone who's maybe a bit nervous about taking the step onto the stage. Say, maybe try it from your bedroom first. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think the same with you there, definitely. When hopefully things start getting lifted in the next couple of months, we may be able to get back to doing live events again. And in some ways, it's probably going to have brought more people forward to give the confidence to actually step out there and do it. So,
absolutely.
But I think as well, I'm interested in your opinion on this as well, do you think Zoom nights will carry on then? Because I do. I can see it. It's opened a different market up, hasn't it? So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I hope a lot more things exist on Zoom, exist online. I mean, for instance, I came to that event that we were at to Word, which is, the other side of the country. Not quite the other side.
But it was where it is, that's West Midlands way. Like I'm way above that and you're way below that. So it's like never the twain shall meet, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, like this, this course I'm teaching in Uganda, I couldn't do that in person because, I happen to live 5,000 miles away, however far it is.
Slight problem there.
Yeah. But I hope that there are these, and I still hope also that we get back into the pubs and the stages and everything, and that we can still have those nights where we do all get together, because those are fantastic. But I would like to see a parallel to venues, online venues and real world venues, because sometimes you don't want to get out your pajamas, do you?
No. Some days it's nice just to just go after work finishes. If you're working at home, just boot the laptop up and go and sit in on a night for a few hours. It's fantastic. Yeah,
I have slightly enjoyed the lockdown, I've got to say.
I have. In some ways it's worth me. Some ways it's not.
Yeah.
I think there's been good and bad things, because certainly in my case, I don't know what you're like, you're writing. I had absolutely tons of incomplete projects knocking around over the years. And last year, I think I finished about 4 of them off. 5 things that were 2/3 complete. And I've just bought up one now, actually, a haiku book. That's been dangling around for about 9 months now, it has, and finally finished it. So it's it's give you that space when you're at home or to focus on that sort of stuff. So
yeah. I mean, actually, I think I've probably been less creative in lockdown. I think I've been more comfortable, and I haven't gone out doing the social stuff, and I haven't exhausted myself so much. But I need to be out. I mean, I write on the train. That is my big writing place. Normally I have. Yeah, it's this sort of liminal space. You're not quite anywhere. You can't really do anything. So you just go, oh, lovely. I can just sit and scribble and let myself be influenced by whatever might be drifting past the window.
Same for me with that. I think when you're in trains and stuff, or buses, I get a bus to park. Sometimes I get a bus to work, sometimes a train when I'm in the office. But you're in a neutral space, I think. Yeah. And if you're at home, sometimes you get too comfortable to sit down and start writing.
Yeah.
I think you have to be outside sometimes to do that. So
yeah.
I'm like that with reading as well, because I tend to read a lot when I'm going to work and from work and not writing. When I'm at home, I'm usually gabbing with my partner or messing around, just life's getting in the way in the flat, in it, so or whatever it is. So definitely that. Anyway, Joe, well, what we'll do, we'll conclude this bit, because we'll let you go and get yourself composed for a few poems for us. If people want to find out more about you, where are they best going?
So I think the main 2 places are either my Facebook page, where Harker Shaw Poetry, which is where I generally spraff whatever is going on in my head, or my website, which is harkershaw.wordpress.com, which is just a little blog where I have interviews with poets, my video poems, bits of links to this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah. Also check you out on Amazon as well, because you've got Costello. You do have a number of books on there as well.
And books and all that stuff.
Definitely. So brilliant. Okay, well, let's take a quick break then, and hang around, everybody. Joe, I love Joe's poetry, so I'm looking forward to hearing this. So see. Thank you again, Joe. I'll see you all in a minute.
Thank you.
Spoken, mate.
Hi guys, Andy N. Still here with Jo Harker Shaw. Joe's going to do a few poems for us now. Over to you, Joe.
Thank you. So my first poem here is called "The Word Is Not Enough." And it's very much about life in lockdown, which we've been talking about already. It's kind of about being a poet in lockdown and how I'm shifting my feelings on the written and spoken word. The word is not enough. We take pride in ringing phrases and in carefully sculpted truths. We've implied and exculpated all our reasons and our proofs, whether the banks and governors have called on us or condemned our outspoken cry. We are proud to be the poets. That I will not deny, for it's a noble calling, to be a writer, to be a wordsmith. But in these hours of isolation, my faith in these words shift. A text message was once a scroll in the library of Alexandria. Some one good soul, some keeper of the books, some guardian librarian had scanned the first edition of Byron into PDF so that I can command the semblance of pixels upon my screen 2 centuries later. And his brilliant laughter breaks across the calm of Lake Geneva, and I, who was born to nothing, can read for free and be a poetry professor. It is extraordinary. And yet, for all this glory, these words are not enough. Despite the years of lexical improvement, despite moving phrases like roses in a bouquet, despite the well-honed rhymes and all those times we have worked from afternoon through midnight, morn and dawn to catch the inspiration of first sunlight, it is not enough to be a poet. To tap, tap, tap on the keys to unlock mysteries and hieroglyphs upon a blank screen page that somehow, astonishingly, centuries of learning have awoken. Years of education and dedication have formed into this complex system of signs and symbols, a second nature to our mind, written words that bypass the eyes. You cannot hear the processing. There is a fraction of a second between the spoken word reaching the ear and the magnificent brain's analysis, decoding, turning words to meaning. It is a miracle, these words. But these words are not enough, because there is one person 6 miles down the road I cannot hold in my arms. And my God, it is tough to realize that after all of this, words just aren't enough. His voice on the phone is less than half of him. His emoji-scattered messages do not sing the way the cadence of his smile sings. The narrowing and widening of eyes exposes wordless feelings, a pupillary understanding for those like me who have studied his eccentricities. Over years of intimacies too many and too minor to be mentioned, friendships, drunken evenings, and long-haul emotional journeys, his speech is sharp and clever, and he can deconstruct with cunning speed the riddles of antiquity. He can enlighten the darkest concept with conscientious understanding. But the moment of our communion was the night when, without asking, we left the pub, our friend still laughing, and he, without asking, wrapped his arms around my shoulders, without asking what was wrong. And all my nouns and phrases would have failed attempts at a reply. I inhaled the lapel of his jacket and let my tears soak in to what is so much a part of him. I miss you, my friend, my brother from afar, and I have learned that words are just a fraction of all the wonder that you are.
Fantastic. I'm glad you did that one, because hoping you would do that today, because I remember you doing that one over when I first met you over at Mel's Night fairly recently, and that was the one I thought at the time. I thought, wow, no, brilliant start of that.
Thank you.
I'm made that we did that
it's
one.
One that's still a little bit emotional, I think, with that one. It's still a little bit.
What I like about that at the time was there was a deep emotion in the piece, but also it wasn't you didn't lay it too hard, too heavy on your heart, if you know what I mean. You held back a bit, and I thought that gives it more power sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're not going to ask you any more deep questions about your pieces. I'm not that cruel. Okay, what's your second one, Jo?
Second one, I'm going to do an old one now. That was one of my newest poems, that one, as I say, about lockdown and everything. But this one is a very old one from Songs of the River, goes way, way back. And it's just called Morning Song. Morning Song. 4 circles of the old bold cheater's clock this morning has rung me through. I'm pensive, the pen rests a while. I'm so wide awake, as the familiar spectres of Mala's dying children drift ghost-like through my brain. Pale as the iris of my eye, in which is envisioned the waking blush of day. From the small black box at bedside, a honeyed voice tells me that the nighttime songs are done, put away in their day box until darkness falls again. And a younger voice steps in, toast still clutched in hand, and gaily dances Schubert across the airwaves to wake the morning man. The concertier slips home, carefully wrapped against this bitter morning, as the revellers, the taxi drivers, the watchmen all are swept up by street sweepers, exchanged for better things. Grocers, vendors, photographers, and businessmen from abroad, their faces flabby, moist, and frog-like, unhardened by the day. I suppose I sympathise, for 2,000 words have poured already from my pen, and of these barely 20 holding quality. Yet every one is precious to me. My infant offspring, gazing up at me, the black ink on the white, my pride and joy. But now I close the book. My work is not truly begun. For these sweet deceiving words are naught but the fancy of my head, and they do so very little to deliver me my daily bread.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's a complete change in tone to your over piece. I think. Do you think over lockdown it has changed the way you write anyway? I think it has really, hasn't it, of all writers?
Yeah, I mean, probably, I don't know, to be honest, to reflect on my own work, I think I'm a bit too close to it now to sort of, to see it, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe ask me in 5 years' time and I'll probably.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Yeah, do the same for me as well. When I look back at my lockdown work thinking, oh, God, you were a miserable bugger then. Yeah, I agree. Anyway, we'll move straight on, okay? So,
yeah.
Okay, what's your third one, Jo?
Another old one, I'm afraid. But this is one of my little favourites, and we were talking at the beginning about sort of poems that you love from childhood, and talking about Robert Frost and so on. And this one is one that I wrote so long ago that it has become that familiar to me, that it's that comfortable and that cozy, and I just slip back into it. And this was, probably one of the earliest poetry workshops that I attended. And it was one of those ones where they sort of said, oh, you're going to write a poem about your childhood. And I was sitting there going, oh, I'm not ready to do that. Here, throw your heart down on the page. And I wasn't ready to write any kind of true story about my life. So I thought, well, I'll write the magical realism story of my life. So this one is simply called Barefoot Child Climbed Towards the Moon. And once again, it's from Songs of the River. From the darkened window waiting, she sees the soft moon, baiting children to come and play amidst the downy rays that shape and hide the sleeping night now brought alive. Leaving the house as she embarks, she feels no peril of the dark. Through the high grass field, run lightly. Through the shadow dark wood, run soft. Forest pine pins make a gentle rug for tiny feet in the glorious dark. Oh, barefoot child, climb towards the moon. Beneath her weight the ancient giant moans, but limb by limb his height he yields, raising her towards star fields. And the cosmos, trembling, growing bright, baptizes the child into the night. With the moon water whose drops reflect the glowing goddess as she blesses. So believe in nothing and love the earth. This is the story of your birth.
Well, that's beautiful. Oh, wow. Just a tender piece as well, that then. It shows, I think, you wrote that piece. Were you still living in Scotland at that point then, were you?
I think I just left.
Yeah, I think your Scottish accent came through to the forefront then. I was wondering that then. Yeah. You said at the beginning, so your accent slips all over the place, but it did in that piece then. But no, it was beautiful. Absolutely mesmerising.
It's probably because I've been reading it since I had a much stronger accent, and so I just instantly get back into it. That's funny though, I was unaware.
Right, okay, we said 4 or 5 today, so should we do 2? Go for the 5 then, shall we? You got 2 more?
I've got one. Yeah, I've got one more to do just now.
Yeah, I think then people are wondering if you're going to try and find the 5th one to message across to us afterwards, aren't you? So
yes, I am. So this is just a little love song kind of thing. I do love a good sad love song. And sometimes people go, oh, who's that about, and everything, and I'm annoyingly just very happily married. But I still love writing a good heartbreaking love song.
I think we all do, don't we? So I love poems or something that goes wrong, don't you? Because we're miserable.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to be a bit miserable. So this is called Your Eyes Are Never Where I Want Them. Your eyes are never where I want them. You always look away. And you shut me from your mind, my love, because you know you cannot stay. You leave like a shadow that the wind has drawn, and silence is the gown that you wear. But you leave with a sigh in your sorry blue eye and regret in your grey golden hair. A wintry wind sighs through my house and through the unpassing hours, but I douse my rooms in jasmine scent, for it's too dark here for flowers. The damp warped woodwork sighs forlorn, it cries for you when you're gone. But there are no tears in my eyes, my love. I've sworn to pretend to be strong. Your hands are never where I want them. Yours is a fleeting touch. It lingers only seconds here, but seconds are enough to open all the long-locked doors into palaces long dormant, gardens eternal and castles all opulent adornment. And I would be the goddess of the golden hall, commanding heavenly mayhem, more terrible than the world has ever known, destroying want from my pearly throne. I'd illuminate cities in a maddening joy and destroy the world for my beautiful boy. They would tremble then to see all that I am, powerful and beautiful and magnificent rare. But your lips are never where I want them. Your eyes are never where I want them. They do not rest on me. And acknowledging the promise that you have made, I quietly take my leave.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
That's the noise a poet wants to hear at the end of the poem.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love the last couple of lines of that. They really you tied it all together beautifully. That was great stuff, that Jo. Really good. Really good way of finishing off what could be the end of the session.
Yes.
Well, if everyone hears the tingle saying spoken label, then you kick in again. We know another poem, but no, we just leave that as a surprise at the moment. I don't know. We don't know. So, but seriously, Jo, it's been a pleasure today. I've really, really enjoyed this.
No, thank you. It's been absolutely wonderful.
It's been a great chat today. So hang around. I need to chat to you off mic, as I always do to everybody else. But as Don Carlos at Impact Wrestling says to everybody, stay safe and stay over. We'll see you all soon.
Spoken, mate.